All right, can everyone see and hear me all right? It's going to be about a 5 to 10 second delay, so as I say, can everyone hear me all right? I'm sitting here anxiously waiting for a response, hoping that there aren't too many technical glitches with this live stream. I've tried my best to try to figure out some of these glitches, and not sure if this is working or not. Nope, looks like it is. I can see it moving in the preview, so. Alright, gonna give it a few minutes for everyone to log on. Hopefully there's not too much buffering going on. Feel free to give me a report in the chat if you see any buffering or frozen video. I noticed that happened in the last 2 live streams I did, and I wasn't sure if it was internet related or if it was OBS related, so hopefully I found the kinks. Just like over-the-air TV, these live streams are very trial and error based, so it's to the point where you find something's not working correctly and you change one thing, hope that it fixes it. If that doesn't fix it, you try another thing, hope that fixes it. I got some background on these live streams over the last week that I just kind of looked up all of the errors I was getting, and there's really a lot more to it. I thought you just kind of hook in a camera, just the same way people think they buy an HD antenna and get all the channels. It's not really the case. It's a lot more complicated. So hopefully this will be all right. I can tell you I did buy a new cable for the camera, so it shouldn't go dark like it did last time. And all should be good after that. I appreciate all of you guys joining me tonight. It's a beautiful sunny evening in eastern Pennsylvania where I'm at. Hopefully it's sun shining just as brightly where you guys are at as well. Robbie Strike is joining us tonight. Eventually at some point I would like to have a live stream with Robbie, the happy satellite nerd. I just need to make sure I get all these kinks figured out, because I don't want to invite him on a live stream and then he's frozen, or there's a black video, or there's some buffering because one of my roommates plays video games all day, so no offense if they heard me. Yeah, Canada. I have a few subscribers from Canada, which I think is kind of cool. The over-the-air TV standard that the United States uses is the same standard as Canada. The difference, and I'm not going to give too much away, but I can almost envision Robbie and I having a discussion about the differences between over-the-air TV in the United States and over-the-air TV in Canada. It's actually pretty, even though they use the same standard, it's a little bit different. Yeah, James, I live in, I've actually set up a few antennas in Levittown, Pennsylvania. You're not too far from Philadelphia, so you can get most of the stations, but you want to make sure you have a decent antenna with low VHF capability. Omnidirectional antennas, they really don't work the best for most people. I've always lived in kind of what I consider the fringes, not the best reception area, where I set up antennas at. An omnidirectional antenna doesn't work well where I'm at. But if you're in a relatively flat area and signals are pretty fair, I find in most cases a directional will probably get them all, but omnidirectionals definitely have their place. I've heard some people have had decent success with them. Audio is out of sync. Oh, I just love these little glitches. Hold on a second. Let me see if there's anything I can do about that. Hopefully the audio isn't too much out of sync. I'm guessing it probably is a little off sync. There's not too much I can do about that right now, but I do appreciate the update. I'm just going to put a note for that to take a look at that the next time. Audio sync issue. I wish there was a YouTube streaming man out there that would help me with all of my technical glitches. How's the audio? I'll do a quick survey on the chat window. Are my lips going all right with the words that you guys are hearing, or is it slightly off sync? I'm not going to be offended if it is. I just need to know, so that way I can Google again, why is my audio out of sync? I'm not using my lapel mic only because it's just another thing that could potentially go wrong. I'm using the internal microphone for now, but I'm in a relatively small area, so it shouldn't be that bad. Okay, I will keep a note for that next time about the audio sync issue. I'm not using the lapel mic, it's a built-in one. Let me go see if I can actually change that right now. Give me a second. I'm going to take a look at the audio, see if I can fix the sync real quick. Push to talk delay. Probably can't do much about it now. I do apologize about the sync. It's going to drive me potentially nuts rewatching the video, and those of you that are watching it, I've just always been a video guy, and when I see like off sync, it just drives me crazy. So maybe I could talk like this. Maybe whatever, YouTube will get me banned for doing this. There, now the audio can't be off sync because you can't see my lips. Just kidding. I don't want to look like that right now. So, anyway, I'm going to get started in about a minute or two. I'm just going to give it a little bit for more people to find the live stream. If you're just joining me, I appreciate you watching. I'm going to go through a few antennas and answer some questions. Let me just see if I could figure out this audio thing one more time. OBS, you're killing me. OBS Studio is the program that I use to do these live streams, and say the least, it's a decent program. It's very, very powerful, but I think I don't know if it's on their end. I don't know exactly what it is, but there's always a glitch, and I'm like, but it's okay. All right, so hopefully all you guys are doing great tonight. I've been doing all right, been very busy lately, just kind of keeping myself busy from the situation we are in right now. I don't like sitting at home, and it pretty much drives me crazy because I'll go on the computer and I'll respond to one email, and then I'll get 2 emails, and I'll respond to those 2 emails, and I'll get 5 emails, and I'll have all the comments and all the Facebook messages. I welcome them, openly. They just get kind of overwhelming at times, especially when I'm doing other things. So, yeah. All right, well, give me a second. I don't think I can do much about the audio. It annoys me. Like, I really wish I could. It's almost like when I set up antennas and there's one station that's not coming in. That's not acceptable. I will do all that I can to make sure that station comes in the same way. I will do all that I can right now to see if I can fix the audio. Oh, I might have an idea. Let me go see if I can do this. Give me a second. Give me 1 second. Testing 1 2. All right, how is the sync right now? Everyone say better or worse? Because I have 2 options for the microphone. I have the microphone in my laptop, and then I also have the microphone on my on my camera. It's so funny. I'm thinking better and worse. It's just, okay, worse. We'll change. All right, so this is probably as good as it's going to get, just like picking up a TV station. Sometimes it's really the best you can do in the situation. So hopefully this will work a little bit better. Properties, advanced audio properties. Oh, I found it. I found, I think, the delay thing I can do. Where are you? Off sync, off sync. Come on, where are you? All right, this will have to do for now. Again, I'm going to apologize for the audio sync issues. I'm not sure why it happened like that. If it makes you feel better, I can just pay attention to the antenna and don't look at me as much, and that might make it a little better. So anyway, we'll go get started on some antennas we can look at. This antenna was sent in to me by Bob from Illinois. He's a guy I've been talking to a lot recently. He knows a little bit more about antennas than I do, and I'm kind of getting a little bit more information, things that I wasn't aware of. I'll be honest with you. I do know a lot about antennas over the air, a lot, probably more than any YouTuber that talks about antennas. There are a few things that I'm not aware of, so Bob's helped me with that. This is his setup, and in fact, he has more antennas in addition to this, but this is the only antenna picture that I grabbed. He modified one of the Stellar Labs antennas to make it double the length. So right now, you can see on the right, the VHF antenna is there, and then on the left, that's actually 2 antennas put together, literally synced together, which is kind of cool. And then at the top, he has a UHF antenna. So, Jeff, suggested trying 10 millisecond delay. So let's go try that. Jeff, I do appreciate that. Let me go try 10 milliseconds. All right, better or worse? We're going to try this again. Better or worse? Oh, don't you just love technology? You know, you would think in 2020 we would have a lot of this stuff figured out by now. But it's almost like all I have at the end of the day is a camera plugged into my laptop and screen capture card. And yep, someone's saying better but not perfect. Oh, probably as good as it's gonna get. I don't want to mess around with the reception too much. Anyway, this is Bob's antenna, as I mentioned. Right here, he's got a decent setup. He's more of a DXer, so the average person doesn't need this setup. And just pretend you're watching like one of those Japanese synced movies where someone consider that Ping Bing Ding is taking this live stream and then resyncing it together the same way they make their antennas. They don't do the best job of them. So yeah, Bob has a very good antenna setup. Mike, thank you so much for the contribution. Looks like he said, I gave you a custom antenna recommendation and it worked. That's really my goal, folks. If you sign up for a custom antenna recommendation on my website, and I'm taking a lot of time out to check things, I'm going to try my best to do it right. And if I don't do it right, you don't pay for it. And in most situations, without trying to toot my horn too much, I actually do fix people's reception issues because there's just so much to this stuff. The same way there's so much to this live stream that is almost the average person. If you tried setting this up, you would be working at this for 10 years before you figured it out. But yeah, I greatly appreciate that contribution. I'm not like PBS. I won't hold your programs hostage for contributions. And I don't take money from the government and FCC like they did. But any contribution is greatly appreciated because I do spend a lot of time on the channel and even buying antennas myself. But all right, so that was Bob's antenna. This is Adam's antenna here. This antenna was actually featured a few times on my live streams. It's the Winegard HD7. If I typed it out, I could remember it. HD7694P, that's it. That's the antenna. It's kind of like a medium directional UHF, VHF antenna that works pretty well for moderate to weak reception areas, not too weak in the fringes, but you know, works all right to say the least. So that's his antenna. It looks like he has a preamp on top of it, and it's a very steep roof, so I'm hoping that, you know, he had a professional set up. Am I still good, everyone? I'm seeing a little spinning wheel, a little bit of viewer feedback. Are you guys getting spinning wheels a lot or not so much? This is something else I want to work on. I want to give you guys the best live stream the same way I want to give someone the best advice for an antenna. Yeah, I figured that would happen. Frozen, go figure. Oh, I love OBS Studio. I'll fix these problems one day. Believe me, I tried. I spent like 30 minutes trying to figure this stuff out the other night. And but, you know, at least most of you guys can see me. And again, I'm going to apologize for any technical glitches. I'm trying really hard to make sure that I can get this stuff worked out. And eventually I'll figure out what's going on. I don't think it's my internet speed with the buffering because I have 250 megs and 10 megs upload, and I limited the uplink to 1.2 megabits on this stream. So, okay, well, moving on, we're going to move on to Dave's antenna. This is Dave from Missouri. I'm going to try to zoom in on this antenna. He has it on a tower, and this is a very large combo antenna. He tells me he's able to get St. Louis stations from over 100 miles away. He mentioned he's about 120 miles from St. Louis, Missouri, but given the fact that a lot of times TV transmitters are at least 10, sometimes 15, 20 miles from a major city. So assuming, you know, give or take 20 miles, he's at 120 miles, he's definitely going to get the stations with a decent antenna setup. I'm a little surprised, though, that the stretch is at 100 miles, 120 miles. Probably a very flat area for most of us. That's not going to be too easy to get. So I'm going to zoom out on that, go to the next one. Okay. So this one is the Clearstream for Macs. It is basic small directional antenna with both UHF and VHF capability. And at the top, he has a little FM antenna to help FM reception. This is from Dave in Pennsylvania. I'm pretty sure he was in my service area. I thought he had mentioned that he was getting Philadelphia stations, so it's always cool to have people that are near me watching the channel, you know, engaging in the content. And I greatly appreciate them for not contacting me when a TV station is not coming in. Like, I get a few people that will contact me and say, did you know Fox 29 is off the air? And I'm thinking, you're calling antenna, man. Like, please, I understand, but like, call Fox 29. I get emails and calls of people either reporting stations off the air or asking if I know of stations that produce power. If I knew every TV station and if they were on the air at the same time and when they would go off the air, I would be a very rich man, because that would mean I could essentially know what is going on at times when no one else does. I'm not like that, don't worry. I'm just a regular person. So this antenna here is from Joan in Michigan. She gets stations from Ontario, Canada, the same way that Robbie Strike and a few of my Canadian viewers get TV stations from the United States. I had a funny question the other day. Someone asked me if TV stations can travel across state lines. And the answer is yes. I mean, I shouldn't say there's any dumb questions, but could you imagine if, like, the frequencies just stopped because they saw a state line? Like, no, we can't go into Pennsylvania. We're a New Jersey station. That would be pretty funny. And just so some of you know, the whole ATSC 3.0 not being allowed out of market, that's kind of just like a very, very small rumor that I don't really think is very credible, to be honest with you. I know I mentioned it in one of my videos a long time ago that ATSC 3.0 has the potential to restrict out-of-market viewing the same way if you try to, you know, go on YouTube TV and watch an out-of-market station, it would tell you you're out of the market. But for the most part, I think we're going to keep getting what we're getting, if not much better reliable reception and more stations as ATSC 3.0 launches, hopefully by the end of the year in many markets across the United States. So this antenna is from Mike in Washington. Now, I like not only the antenna setup, but that the flag is right there. Hopefully the flag isn't hitting the antenna in the wind, or else that can mess up your reception. At the top he has a Channel Master CM4228 HD, very good UHF antenna. Middle one is a combo antenna, and then it looks like towards the bottom, that looks like a Danny Hodges, it's either Danny or Danny Hodges homemade antenna design, kind of tilted on the side. Some of you may be saying, oh, it's tilted on the side, he's not going to get good reception that way, it's supposed to be up this way. Occasionally, I've been in situations where, you know, tilting the antenna on the side or like this gets better reception. I mean, I'm not installing them that way, but back when I had to, I'm still renting, but when I was in an apartment that had no access to putting the antenna outside, I remember I wasn't able to get a TV station like this, but I was able to get it pretty much pointed towards the ceiling for some reason, likely because there was a building blocking the signal in the direction it was facing. So, this antenna, this is an interesting antenna. It comes from Patrick. It's made by Antenna Craft, and I haven't really researched it. It looks like a small directional with potentially low VHF. Looks like a bird, and it's a pretty cool looking design. I'd be curious to see. I don't think it's still in, still being made, because I don't mean to say this, but I know almost every antenna out there. I've done a lot of research. I used to buy a bunch of antennas back in the day, and I don't see this one. It's possible it might just be a not well-known model, but for those of you that are curious about it, look up Antenna Craft, and maybe you'll find it. It does look pretty cool, and I think the people that don't like antennas, you know how they look, they might like this one because it kind of looks like a bird. So I just saw, I don't view the comments. I would like to see all of the chats in the chat window, but I don't see them all the time because I'm focusing on the live stream, making sure it's on and everything like that. Someone had just asked, will the Amazon Fire TV recast be updated for the new ATSC 3.0 standard? Just as a heads up, if you have any sort of equipment that's not ATSC 3.0, and there really isn't really anything out there besides the HD Home Run tuner that was just unveiled, no software update's going to fix it. You're going to have to get an actual new converter box, new tuner. A software update is not going to send a new chip inside the unit, at least not yet. We're not teleporting things quite yet. But I think the recast, I think Tableau, all of them will eventually jump on board. They're just sitting and waiting to see how it takes off, because to be honest with you guys, there have been other standards in the past. They even had ATSC MH that was launched probably about 8 or 9 years ago. A lot of TV stations had it, and just nothing ever came of it. And you know, in the past, ATSC, the Advanced Television Systems Committee, I don't mean to doubt them. I mean, there's a lot of work behind the scenes, but there's a lot of hype for nothing that happened. You know, ATSC 2.0, ATSC MH, and then I was sitting there getting excited about it, and then nothing happened with either of them. And I'm just thinking, is this just another hype thing that's never going to happen? The difference with 3.0 is all of the media companies that are involved and on board with it. So it's kind of like if I said to you guys, do you want to petition the FCC for some issue that happened? And I get 5 people that say yes, nothing's going to happen. If I get 100 people that say yes, I'm a little more likely to get some action. In this case of ATSC 3.0, there's probably 500, a group of at least 500 TV stations that are committed to it. So, North Coast Workshop, you're Patrick. So, yeah, thanks so much for submitting the picture, and you've been featured on the YouTube stream. This actually comes from a Patrick as well. It's probably hard to see for some of you, but in the upper left, that's a homemade antenna specifically cut to RF channel 9, which is a TV station in Canada that Patrick is getting. And that's hooked into a converter box and then an old TV set. I used to love these old TV sets back in the day. I kid you not, this may sound crazy, but back when I was a kid, when I probably like 10, 12 years old, I bought a used TV from the Salvation Army thrift store, and it wasn't getting the TV stations in as well as another TV set in my house. And so I bought another one, and another one, and another one too. At one point, I think I had at least 20 to 25 TVs, because I was so committed to get these very fringe stations that did not really reach the area that my dad moved to, that I would just buy, you know, all these TV sets, and God bless my mother, she bought them for me, and you know, after I worked, and I don't know how my parents put up with it, but I remember I had a bunk bed, and on the lower bunk, it was just all TVs that looked like this TV. And I think I finally found one that was sensitive enough to pick up the VHF stations from New York about 70 miles away behind a mountain. VHF signals tend to bend a little bit better over the mountains than the UHF signals, and of course a lot of the antenna experiments back in the day. But I think that's a cool setup. I know some people do keep these older sets due to nostalgia purposes, maybe sentimental reasons, and Patrick is one of them. So let's see what we got. That might be the end of the, so that is actually the end of the pictures. I didn't really get too many, so I had to go back to the previous week, and I wanted to keep this relatively short, so that way I could answer some more of your questions and begin a cool discussion. I don't know how you guys feel about the antennas. Hopefully you guys think it's cool to look at. And if you have any ideas about the live stream, in terms of things you would like me to do live, it's not going to be installing the antenna. That's just it takes up to 5 hours in some cases on my end, because I'm very precise with it. If you have any other ideas with the live stream, let me know. I'm not signing off right now. I'm just saying that's the reason why I wanted to keep it a little bit shorter, so that way we can do more questions and more cool discussions. So at this moment, I'm going to start taking a look. Let me go make myself a little bit bigger here. If you guys want to see something funny, watch this. Ooh, look at that. I discovered that one kind of testing a few things out earlier today, so let me just go do that. And I'm so afraid to touch the camera, because the last time I touched the camera, the whole thing went out. But I got the new cable, so this should be okay. Better stay okay. I gotta adjust the iris. It's getting a little darker by me. It's about sunset, a little before sunset now in the eastern region of Pennsylvania. But so I will just kind of go through and look at some of these messages that are coming through and see what some questions are. Stacking antennas, that's something that I wanted to get to at some point, whoever asked that. I have a lot of videos I want to get to, but the average video, and again, this is why I always accept contributions, the average video I make takes between 4 to 6 hours to plan, film, edit, create the thumbnail, export it, upload on YouTube. It takes a lot of time, so I would love to post, 100 videos on 100 topics I'd like to get to, but it really takes a lot of time. I can only really post maybe 2 or 3 videos a week with my schedule. So stacking antennas is something that I wanted to get into. That's a good idea if you are in a very fringe location and you want to kind of maximize your gain. You want to get a good antenna design for just UHF and a good antenna design just for VHF, combine them together, and the theory is that's better than a combo antenna, because each of them are dedicated and have more gain than when you put 2 antennas on a combo antenna. So yeah, that's that. The FCC, okay, so Brian, the next FCC repack, the last one, is, yes, it's in either July or August, so we're almost at the end of the whole repack phase. What a mess that was. I mean, it's almost like if you had a bunch of, I almost thought of an analogy, but I just forgot about it. The FCC screwed that up. They should have given the stations more time, and really it was not the best situation. A lot of TV stations couldn't get the work done on time and operated at a reduced power for a while. Someone sent me a super chat, and I'm trying to go back and find out who that was, because I didn't see it come in. Because I know the one gentleman donated $19.99. Billy Mays here, and now it's up to $24.99. So if I can find out who that is. Okay, here it is. Paca Debt. I appreciate the contribution. Let me just go read your message real quick. Only ever donated to. You've saved me some cash. Yeah, I mean, that's really what I aim to do. I really aim to better the country as a whole. I really started this channel because I feel that the average person could have a much better life if they learn to get a decent antenna setup, which is very tricky, and essentially save themselves $1,000 a year. That really leads to a better quality of life. So, Paca Debt, I'm not good at pronouncing things. That's why I'm not a TV broadcaster. I really appreciate the contribution, and yeah, that's really what I aim to do, because when you have that money back in your pocket, like I think of the average person who pays for cable, they're throwing away between $1,000 to potentially $1,500 a year over the course of 20 years, $20,000, $30,000. That really is a lot of money. That could fund someone's college. That could fund renovations on a house. It could fund a lot of things. But what it's funding is people sitting in front of a TV. And I'm not saying sitting in front of a TV is bad, but when you're paying $25,000 over the course of 20 years to do it, and it's available free, you're not making the right decision, in my opinion. All right, I can't whistle, Xavier. I've tried so many times. If you hear a little whistle, that's just because the air escaped from my mouth too fast. I'm trying hard to lower the speed of my dialect, because I've rewatched some of my live streams and I noticed I kind of talk like this, and I'm just thinking, if I sound like I'm talking really fast, you can only imagine what I sound like to people that don't have fast dialect. I'm trying my best to kind of lower my speed, because when you have these thoughts through your head, you just kind of talk faster and faster, and you don't realize you're talking fast. Brett, this is a good question. Both I'm gonna get a lot of questions, so I do apologize if I missed yours. A TV transmitter by SOTHD. That's something that I will show in a video of mine. It was on eBay. I bought it a few years ago. Probably about 10 years ago. It's a UHF transmitter. It has an output and it reaches about 1,000 feet, which is kind of cool. So I'll probably take you guys down the block and we'll get one of those little Sony Watchmans and potentially watch some TV in analog over the air. Someone had just asked me mounting antennas in trees. I've seen it done before, and pretty much I wouldn't say it's not a good idea, because trees are definitely targets for lightning. And on top of that, it's just not the best for your signal, because the leaves on the trees may move around and all that stuff. So I've seen people do it. I've seen people mount antennas a lot of ways, a lot of very dangerous ways, including right on top of a power line. Don't do that, guys. I mean, I don't want another potential lawsuit. Nothing about that. So just dump dish, don't need. Yeah, if you dumped from John, if you dumped dish, you need most TVs have a built-in ATSC tuner, so you don't necessarily need a new box or anything like that. You just have to plug it in, put an antenna to your TV set. There are converter boxes that have like a basic DVR function on there, and they're pretty cool. So that's pretty much my advice for you. Social distance yourself from cable TV. That I've seen that a few times. That saying, and that is really true. Like I noticed when I watch less TV, I do more productive things. Like I could have, in the last year, I could have binge watched a lot of seasons. I could have watched a lot of things, but instead I took it upon myself to create this YouTube channel and essentially get TV back to its roots, free over the air, the way it was meant to be. Instead of this bureaucratic, lobbying, big corporation profit thing it's become. It really needs to go back to its origins, because if everyone goes back to over-the-air TV, the big companies with their retransmission fees and all that junk really won't have a leg to stand on, and that's really what I'm hoping to do with this channel. So yeah, keep sending some questions. Do you need power supply for an outside preamp? So preamps send the power over the coaxial cable. So in other words, you don't have to run an extension cord up to the antenna. There's usually a power inserter after the, that goes between the preamp and your TV set. It can even go up to the TV set, and then that's what you do. Eric, greatly appreciate the super chat contribution. Let me just read what you had to say. Stumbled across your channel recently and saw your video on, scroll up, on converter boxes and bought the Allura Tech, which fix your issues having with built-in Toshiba TV tuner. It's a godsend. So what Eric is mentioning, and this is something I've noticed at a lot of places, it even happened yesterday at an antenna install that I did. Certain TV tuners don't decode weaker stations well. And some people will jump and buy a new TV set, which is one solution. If you have an old TV set, you're going to get a new one. That's an option. But the other option is to purchase one of those converter boxes that has HDMI out. I find most of them, whether it be the Amatic one, the Mediasonic one, the Allura Tech, the built-in tuners are very sensitive and they do very well. Even my home TV sets, to give you an idea of how real this topic is, my home TV set is a Panasonic Plasma. I like plasma TVs. I think they look very nice. And it doesn't decode many stations. I can't get CBS 21. I can't get WBRE. I can't get WYOU. And I know the signal is there. So I have a converter box, and I never have problems with the stations, with the exception of CBS 21 kind of blinking in and out every so often. It's 80 miles away, that's expected. But yeah, that is something that I tend to encourage people if you are convinced you have a bad TV tuner. If you're watching me now, look at my other YouTube videos. I do have a few. They're under the DVRs. They're like $40, and the built-in TV tuner on them is very good. I think some of the newest Samsungs might be a tiny bit better, but on the if you have a TV set that has trouble decoding a weaker station, the workaround with the converter boxes is really going to help you. So, the DB8E, I actually just bought that antenna and I put it together, and I'll be testing it out later this week. Hopefully posting it over the next few weeks. My thoughts about it, what I've been told, is it has one of the highest gains of any UHF antenna, but I have my suspicions because it's combined, two separate antennas combined, compared to the CM4228HD. That's just one antenna, so looks like a decent UHF antenna, and we'll find out, once I do my tests. I do all of my antenna tests on the same day to, get an accurate estimation, on the signals and all of that. So let me go see what we else got out. Cutting in and out. So if I'm cutting in and out and it's freezing, I don't think the audio freezes from when I rewatched the last live stream. I think the video freezes every so often, and I'm not sure exactly why that is. I don't think it's an internet issue. I think it is an OBS issue. And if anyone has any suggestions watching this live stream, if you're pretty technical and very good with YouTube and live streams, feel free to send me an email for the fix, because I noticed on the last two videos and I'm just like, why is it doing that? So I do apologize about any of that. I'm hoping, in the future live stream, it can go away. It's just like over-the-air TV. You have bad reception, you get you get a new wire and that doesn't fix it, and then you get a preamp and that doesn't fix it, you get a new tuner and that doesn't fix it. The issue may have been the balun up at the antenna, so it's kind of like a work in progress with this live stream. Need a little more light, the sun's going down, so open up the iris a little bit more. Yeah. So again, I appreciate all you guys watching the live stream tonight, and I noticed this is those of you that are watching me, I really appreciate it. You guys are very dedicated viewers of mine, and just as a heads up, if you see me post some of those junk antennas to review, there's a very valid reason I'm reviewing them. It's not to deceive people into essentially buying these antennas. It's actually the opposite. So for example, a ping ding ding antenna, the rotor antenna, I actually bought one. I think I have the box behind me. I do those antenna reviews because when people search those antennas, I want them to see me to tell them not to buy it before they buy it. So it's kind of like a win-win for everyone, you know. I get to expose these companies that are misleading their customers, and I get to alert the customers on what these antennas actually are. So if you see me post a new video in the coming days, coming weeks, and you know it's a junk antenna, you think, oh, I don't have to watch that, it's a junk antenna, just click it real quick, because that helps improve the search visibility of the video and potentially can get to someone who would have bought it, but then they see me and I can tell them, no, it's not a 150-mile antenna, your rotor is going to fail and preamp's going to fail in 3 months. So yeah, I got that. The best way to test signal strength is, it's one of a few options. I use a portable tuner, and I do have a review of it on my YouTube channel if you go back about a year. If you send me an email, I'll send you the link to it. It's a portable tuner that has basic signal meter on it. It has a normal, it has a bad, normal, and good. And I find the good signal is good enough to not really have many issues. So I mainly use that for signal strength. If you want a more complex signal check, obviously those DTV converter boxes with the signal meter work pretty well. If you want to get very, very technical, those of you that are very technical, Spectrum Analyzer is going to probably get you the best result. But that's probably a little more technical than most of you can understand, including a little bit of myself. So those are two I'd recommend. Eric, I greatly appreciate the super chat. Let me go read your question. Do you think or know if someone out there is rebuilding the legendary Channel Master 4251 UHF Pro, again I can't pronounce, Pro Oblique antenna since Channel Master discontinued it years ago? I'd love to get one. Eric, this is a very valid point that you're bringing up, and this is something that I would like to discuss. So for those of you that don't already know, Channel Master made an antenna years ago, and let me go see if I can bring up a actually, I don't think I can. Pretty much Channel Master made this big giant, it looked like a satellite dish antenna, and it was meant for UHF. It was hands down the best UHF antenna on the market. A lot of farmers had them, and it was the best for rural situations, and then they were discontinued. And a lot of people have been looking for them, and I've seen a few come up every so often on some Facebook groups. As far as I know, there aren't really, I saw like one or two of them a few weeks ago posted on like a Facebook group. So if you're looking for that antenna, join a few antenna Facebook groups and just put a post on there. Hey, does anyone know of this antenna? One thing I will say about that antenna, and what have some people have told me, I'm not 100% sure if this is true or not, but that antenna was designed, from what I've been told, for UHF channels 14 through 83 back in the 80s. And we are now down to UHF channels 14 through 36. So even though it was optimized as the best UHF antenna back then, because of the repack and because you need slightly larger elements for the lower end of the UHF spectrum, I'm told that it's no longer, it's probably about the same as a 4228 HD or a DB8E, just in terms of it. Yeah, it was the best if we had channels 14 through 83, but then the FCC sold, shrunk it down to 14 through 69, shrunk it down through 14 through 51, and then now we're shrinking it down to UHF channels 14 through 36, and this has really got to be the last time the FCC does this. And there have already been some really bad consequences of this whole repack, especially for people in fringe areas between two adjacent and co-channel stations. So, you know, and I'm thinking if I can build this channel enough and get enough people, I'm almost up to 80,000 people. If they try pulling some stuff like this again in 10 years, I can definitely organize something to potentially stop them. I'm hoping that this is it, and with the spectrum efficiency of, you know, ATSC 3.0, I think we'll be okay. But, yeah, that's my little rant about the FCC repack. So, all right, let me just go take a look at the live chat a little bit. Picture's frozen. Parabolic, is that how you pronounce it? You know, I could never pronounce things. Like, my mind tries to interpret words I don't know and just kind of freaks out and doesn't know what to do. So even though this comment down here says parabolic, my mind is saying, is it parabolic, prolabolic? It just gets confused. I think it's parabolic. So enough about my horrible pronunciations of things. So someone asked about grounding. For liability issues, I cannot give you direct guidance. There's National Electric Code to follow in terms of properly grounding the antenna. I do have a video that sort of is a reference on how to properly ground the antenna, but for obvious reasons, I can't say do this and do that, because if I say do this and do that, for some reason lightning hits your house, someone's going to come after me, which has already happened almost twice, so see those set of jokes I throw in there. Yep, private airways were sold to private corporations, and PBS took a lot of money too. That's a future video I plan on talking about too. A lot of PBS stations took millions of dollars. I've seen it's like between 70 and 140 million dollars to move to a low VHF. I think in Boston, Pittsburgh, the bunch of them across the country went to low VHF, and it took the payout. Which I guess is okay, you know, because they're not funded that well, but it's at the same time I wish PBS was more transparent about what happened, instead of saying, we have to move to a low frequency because of the FCC repack. No, you had to move to a lower frequency because you took $70 million and sold out your over-the-air viewers, so hopefully they cancel their contributions to your channel if they lost your station. Alright, so let me go take a look at a few more questions. Nobody is selling antenna. Yeah, no one is selling antennas for the repacked frequency yet. I think there might be something in the future for that. Hopefully there is. So if there isn't, I wouldn't be afraid to, you know, potentially take it on myself if no one wants to fill the void in the market and keep selling antennas that are designed for channels 2 through 69, when we've gotten rid of 69 10 years ago, and now we're getting rid of, you know, 37 through 51, 52. All right, am I able to do a video on sub-channels? That's another video topic I plan on getting to. Again, I have at least 30 topics I'd like to get to. I don't know if I can explain it in, you know, 5 minutes in terms of how they're able to do that. It's basically slicing up their spectrum. Each TV station is leased a certain amount of spectrum. I believe it's 6 megahertz. And so they'll dedicate, you know, certain chunk to the main HD channel and then some chunks to the sub-channels. They can't do too much because then picture quality will suffer if they do. It's pretty much the base of it. I'll get more into it in the future video of mine. So I'm going to go see a few more questions. Ajay Pai, yeah, that guy is definitely, especially with the deal that so to give you guys an idea of how corrupt the current chairman is of the FCC, he basically, there was a big potential purchase of 200 TV stations by a big media company. And they couldn't buy them because the rules said you could only own 2 TV stations in the market. Ajay Pai instituted this old law, this decades-old law that gave it the UHF discount, which, holy crap, I cannot believe what I'm seeing out my window right now. I cannot believe what I'm seeing. It's literally some neighbors coming back from a swim with like not much on. I gotta focus on it just caught me so off guard, but basically, let me get back to what Ajay Pai did. He basically said the UHF discount allows a media company to get more TV stations and only count a UHF station as half a station, meaning if a big media company owns a TV station that broadcasts on the UHF band, it's considered half the station because it has half the coverage. Now, it's a little off the wall, because most of you already know the problems are on VHF, not UHF. And besides the fact that this rule was essentially put in there to give a certain media company the green light to buy about 200 stations nationwide. And they had to sell a few stations, and they couldn't sell those stations, and then eventually they screwed up the whole deal. And it's an interesting research. If you want to look it up, Sinclair and Nexstar. Eventually Nexstar got them, and Nexstar, you've heard me rant about them in a few videos of mine. I don't want to turn it into the Incredible Hulk, but Nexstar not the best in terms of over-the-air viewers. So signal gone. I hope it came back. Can you guys hear me all right? It says signal gone, not loading. Shoot. Give me a second to confirm that I didn't go off the air. I'm hoping a lot of those signal not loading or other issues are related to internet speeds and not that. So I know there's about a 15-second delay on the stream. So making sure you guys can hear me all right. Yeah, I'm guessing you guys can, because I'm seeing comments in regards to what I had mentioned. But there's a lot of corruption that goes on behind the scenes of buying. I can tell you, Nexstar in general, they own in Youngstown, Ohio. They have control of CBS, ABC, Fox, and then also something else. So essentially, they control like the 4 out of 5 of the main stations, and gives them the opportunity to have one newscast in all the stations, which essentially takes away an outlet that would have other news stories, because they are able to buy up these stations. And it's a big issue. It's definitely more of another topic. I'm the antenna man, not so much the media consolidation man. I mean, I kind of am, but I don't want to rant about it too much, or you guys might unsubscribe to me, and I'll probably look like Joe Rogan by the time I'm done ranting about what the media companies have done to some local stations. All right, so looking good. I'm going to take a few more questions on here. Just kind of hanging tight in the meantime. Again, I do apologize about any technical glitches for those of you that are experiencing it. I will watch this video a little bit later just to see what is going on, what's on my end. I think a lot of it is on my end, but it's very tricky. There are so many pipes to go through, so many different settings on OBS to maximize the capability of this live stream, and hopefully I'll get it next time. It's just like over-the-air TV, as I said, you gotta trial and error based, you gotta keep trying some things, and hopefully it gets better. All right. Someone had a comment about Youngstown. I used to live in Central PA, and I traveled out to Youngstown a few times for some antennas, and it was pretty cool to go out there. Just the people were nicer. I mean, I'm in Eastern PA, and some people aren't as nice. Give me a second. I'm going to turn on a light, because I'm noticing it's starting to get a little dark. So I got to turn the light. Now I'm yellow. I'm just going to turn it off, because I don't like the white balance. I'm like a perfectionist when it comes to this stuff. It's like when I set up antennas, you'd see me, what I got to do to get the best signal. Alright, I know I'm getting a little darker, so we'll wrap this up in about 5 minutes. I'll take a look at a few more questions on here. So homemade antennas, that's another video I plan on getting to. They work. It's definitely more for a do-it-yourselfer. I know a lot of people on my channel aren't really the best at putting things together, but if you are, it can definitely work. I haven't really tested it out myself, but I've seen, I've had a lot of people tell me they bought a store-bought antenna, and then they had a homemade antenna, and their results were greatly improved with the homemade antenna, probably because they bought a junk antenna, and then they got, made a decent antenna design, and the end result was better reception. So, yeah, again, I do apologize about any technical glitches. Do note I did work hard on making sure that this live stream was limited the amount of glitches, but I knew they would not go away, because there's just so much to it. And my neighbors are still walking. They must have just went swimming or something like that. But it's just so funny that I'm just looking in the corner of my eye, and I'm just seeing some girl in a bikini. I'm like, oh, I didn't expect that. So Studio quality, Jeff. I actually have I do have a light kit. I just didn't bring it down to my living room because I had planned on filming a video tomorrow. I didn't want to bring the lights all the way down just to bring them all the way back up. I know it's getting a little darker in here, but I plan on ending the stream pretty soon anyway, so it's not the end of the world. If I look a little bit darker, I'll have a light kit next time because I don't think it's an internet issue. I'm hardwired to my modem. So that's the main reason why I was down in my living room, because I was hoping that maybe some of the issues were network related, but I don't think they are. I told my roommate, like, you can't play, games because I'm doing a live stream, and it seems like some of the glitches are still there. But try my best, and I appreciate you guys bearing with me and just hanging out. But I'll do a quick discussion because I'm still waiting for some questions coming. I know you guys are typing them, but by the time I see, I probably get into something else. ATSC 3.0 is on the horizon, and it's pretty exciting. Once it launches near me, I'll definitely show you some videos, and I do have a few videos on it. I visited a lab in Baltimore, and I also tested a live broadcast while I was driving a car, and the signal was very solid compared to the current standard. It's very promising. There's a lot to it, and it's not just ATSC 3.0. This is it. There really is a lot to it, and a lot of different things that can become of it. And from what I've noticed, I think a lot of good things are going to come of it. I didn't think they were good at first, but once I went to 2 different labs and talked with some people, I understood what was going on. It seemed a lot better than me thinking that it was a way to take away over-the-air TV. Just as a heads up, it's not going away. Free over-the-air TV is not going away. The FCC requires the main stations to be free and open to the public, so the .1 station. And paid over-the-air TV was tried many times in the past and always failed. It was even tried as recently in the 2000s for a pay-per-view, and it just never took off because people that have antennas probably know, I'm not going to pay for TV. I get it for free with an antenna. So we should be good on that end. Best over-the-air DVR, it really depends on your situation, and I'm still testing out some. At some point, I will have a video, probably by the end of the summer, of the top DVRs I recommend for over-the-air. Tableau is one of them. I'm also trying to find a simple DVR solution that works like a VCR, that isn't too glitchy like some of the converter boxes were. So at some point, it really depends on your situation in terms of what the best over-the-air DVR is. I do have a playlist on my YouTube channel, over-the-air DVR reviews. I would stay away from Air TV, Fire TV Recast. I don't like that because there's a glitch where it says weak or no signal that will stay on the screen even when there's no breakup. So that's very annoying. I got a lot of complaints. I talked to Amazon. I basically told them, like, hey, like, you guys really should fix this because I'm recommending a lot of DVRs to people and they ignored me. So that's the end result. I don't recommend the Amazon Fire TV Recast because of that weak signal issue. HD Home Run is very good too. That's a little bit more technical for me because it usually works with Plex, and Plex is a little bit beyond my knowledge. I'll eventually understand it once I get through a lot of videos that I want to talk about. But HD Home Run works very well if you're very technical based, if you know a lot about computers. It's a good setup for you. So let me see another question. UHF stations broadcasting on the VHF stations, that count as well. The UHF discount was pretty much for the physical channel they were broadcasting on. So for example, in New York, Fox 5 broadcasts on a UHF frequency. They would be considered with the UHF discount. So if Fox Corporation wanted to buy 100 TV stations and the limit was 50 TV stations, they could buy the 100 if they were all on the UHF band. It's a very complicated topic, but essentially it just allows media consolidation, these big companies to buy out these smaller stations and then just lay off, local staff, reduce newscasts, and it's a really bad thing. I really wish there was something I could do about it, but the chairman of the FCC really does not care. He's shown that time and time again. And, if it were up to me, I would make a law that says if you did something like this in terms of reducing the quality of the over-air broadcast, if you got rid of a newsroom and you own 200 TV stations nationwide and your revenue was $5 billion, I'm not renewing your license. Essentially, that's taking advantage of the public and the scarce public airwaves. TV stations are supposed to be operated in, you know, the benefit of the public, not the benefit of a Nexstar Media Group. So that's my thoughts on that. Some manufacturers have TVs on the market with ATSC 3.0 tuners. We'll be getting one soon. As far as I know, the only ATSC 3.0 tuner that was revealed to the public and, you know, consumer side was the HD Home Run Quattro, which I made a quick video about. The ones with the built-in tuners, I'm not sure exactly where they're at. They were really high-end models, so in other words, I'd essentially have to spend $2,000 to get maybe $1,000 on a high-end model just to get a tuner. I'll just wait for the tuner to come out or contact the guys, but it doesn't matter now because at this point the broadcasts aren't here yet. They'll probably be here hopefully by the end of the year. Everyone knows the recent events have screwed things up in every aspect of life, and I'm hoping ATSC 3.0 launches. And sure enough, you know, I'll keep you guys up to date when I get a tuner. And I do have a video. Again, I do have a video on my YouTube channel of me. I was loaned a dongle, and I was able to show you the broadcast and how it worked, and, you know, the efficiency of the codec, and it's kind of cool in that perspective. Does constant pixelization damage TV tuners? I don't think it damages TV tuners at all. It just essentially gets errors, and it doesn't know how to correct errors. Everyone who gets a TV signal over the air, it's not at 100%. You're maybe getting it at like 70%, 60%, and there's error correction on your tuner that can determine, you know, what comes after the missing dot. Kind of like if you can kind of see who I am behind my hands, but if I went like this, you wouldn't know who I was. It's the same way with over-the-air TV. I don't think it damages the tuners at all. So yeah, I would say I'll take one more question, and then I'm probably gonna get going because it's starting to get dark, and I'm almost out of breath from talking for an hour straight. All right, so wait for a few questions coming. Again, I really appreciate you guys joining me on this live stream tonight, and bearing with all the glitches that hopefully will eventually be fixed. If you know a workaround for the issues that I'm having, feel free to send me an email. Email address is theantennamanpa, so theantennamanpa@gmail.com. All right. So the last question I'm going to answer before I sign off is from Raymond. Is there any advantage of purchasing a top-of-the-line antenna, or is the money wasted? So top-of-the-line antenna, I noticed most of the top-of-the-line antennas that are over $100 are basic small directional antennas that are just kind of exaggerated, like best antenna, super technology, all this kind of crap that they just use as marketing keywords to get people to think they're superior antennas. I'm not going to really mention a few antenna companies that do it. You know who they are, Big Boy, for example. But a top-of-the-line antenna has a greater benefit, a larger antenna, not top-of-the-line. So top-of-the-line, if you're talking about price, some are just small directional antennas coated in plastic. If you're talking about a much larger antenna, it has several benefits to a smaller antenna. It covers a larger surface area, so you're not going to find yourself moving around to get a better signal or install the antenna in the wrong spot and not get all stations. It has more gain, so that way, if the signal gets weaker during atmospheric conditions, the signal goes from here to here, you know, you're able to still get the signal. In general, most times larger antennas work better. But it's not always a benefit. So for example, if you're in a stronger area and you have UHF stations, getting a giant channel master is not going to help because it's more optimized for VHF low, VHF high, and some UHF. It really depends on your situation. It can be any one of like 20 different situations, and that's really why I have the consultation service, because if there was one answer to everyone's solution, I would tell you, but there really isn't, because everyone's situation is so unique, depending on, you know, the frequencies, the reception, their antenna, where they're using it, what tuner they're using, and what cable they're using. They're using the preamp, they're using distribution. I could talk all day about the things that could be it, but top-of-the-line antenna is better for fringe viewers, I'd say, and you know, definitely would have its benefit in most situations, but not in every situation. And not everyone needs a giant antenna. I've gotten a lot of requests for the custom antenna recommendations I give on my website, and the average person really doesn't need the largest antenna. but they do want at least a smaller antenna optimized for either UHF, UHF and VHF, or more towards the upper end of the VHF spectrum, depending on where their TV stations are at. So rain does affect, it's not, one last question I'll get by Mike. So atmospheric conditions affect TV stations. Chris, thank you so much for the super chat. Thanks for calling me amazing. I greatly appreciate that. I don't want to ignore you. I want to get to the question before I forget. Again, thanks so much, Chris Hamilton. Everyone say thanks to Chris. Does rain affect TV reception? What I've noticed about TV reception and certain weather conditions is it's not set in stone. So for example, I get a fringe station about 80 miles away where I'm at in one specific spot. It's very hard to come in, and it doesn't come in all the time. What I notice is sometimes it'll come in fine in the rain, but then other times it won't come in during, even on a slightly clearer night. It's a lot of other factors, and I'm not a weatherman. I can tell you weather probably definitely impacts your reception if you are further away from the broadcast towers, because you'll have 80 miles of weather in your way compared to if you were 40 or 30 miles from the broadcast towers where the signals are stronger and you don't have as much of the issues in the way. So in other words, not every time it rains you're going to lose a station unless you're just barely getting the station it's that week and your area just happens to be very humid. Weather does affect reception slightly depending on how weak the stations are. For me, I'll be honest with you, most of the stations do not change no matter what the weather is where I'm at, because I have a good antenna set up. It's basically maximized to get all the stations. It's just the one or two weaker stations that everyone's going to have in a market. Every market's going to have one or two stations that is problematic, hard to get in. Those are going to be a little iffy during certain windy days if you have a lot of trees around, or severe thunderstorms depending on specifically where the downpour is, and sometimes the downpour won't affect it. It's a lot of other factors, and if I was a meteorologist, I would greatly explain them. So with that, I am going to conclude this live stream. I greatly appreciate everyone who tuned in. Those of you that sent me a super chat, it really helps because I do spend a lot of time on the channel, and there are times where I feel like I'm driving myself crazy, literally helping out the whole country with over-the-air TV, because it gets overwhelming at times, but you guys make it worth it, and I'll keep doing what I'm doing because of the loyal viewers, loyal subscribers. Thanks again for tuning in. Stay tuned to my YouTube channel for more updates. Have an awesome day.